services tax comes into effect from the 1st of July, but what does that mean for you and me? Well, up until now, all the items that you purchased at a kirana store or if you went to a restaurant, multiple taxes would be levied, but that is going to change very soon. I have a restaurant bill with me here. You'll see that several taxes like the VAT on beverage, VAT on food, service tax, all of these taxes will now just essentially become one tax starting the 1st of July 2017, and that is called the GST, or the Goods and Services Tax. Here's what will change starting the 1st of July. Daily consumable items like milk, fruits, vegetables, cereals, curd, etc. will be exempt from the GST. Services such as healthcare and education also remain exempt. Items like coffee, tea, sugar will attract the lowest tax slab at 5%. Here's what will become more expensive. Prices of smartphones are also set to increase. Prices of television, air conditioners and refrigerators are set to go up by 3 to 4%. Additionally, insurance premiums and telecom sector will also see a marginal increase with a proposed tax rate. But here's a question we're asking. Has the GST simplified our tax structure? Mirror Now report.
Viewers, you're watching the Urban Debate. I'm Faye D'Souza. At 9 o'clock today for 1 hour, we are going to take time out on this channel with all of our guests to simply understand what GST is. Now, you watching at home, you might think that it's complicated, it doesn't really involve you, so you don't have to worry about it. But let me point out something. GST is indirect tax, which means that it's not just the earning member who pays it. All of us pay indirect tax. Rich, old, poor, young, whatever it is that you're earning, you will all pay tax. You will all pay GST. Every time you buy something, every time you use a service, every time you go out to a restaurant, every time you buy milk, you have to consider the impact of GST on everything. There will be tax on everything, which is different from the system that we're having right now, which is why it's important that we understand it. It's also important, I want to ask my guests of this evening, that we set aside our differences for this next 1 hour and do a service to the people who are watching this channel at this point to help them understand. So let's break it down. In some points, if we can communicate in Hindi, I would be even more happy. The idea is to get as many people to understand what GST is. Did you know, for example, viewers, that milk, for example, is completely free of tax, which it is right now. Packaged milk will have 5% tax on it. One step further, butter and cheese will have 12% tax on it. One step further from there, ice cream will have 18% tax on it. Aerated drinks will have 28% tax on it. These are all, I'm sure, products that either you or members of your family are currently using, which is why it's important for you to understand GST rates. It's also important for you to understand that there's something called a sin tax, or a tax that they're going to put as a punishment on products that they think are not good for you, which is why aerated drinks are going to be that expensive. Cigarettes, alcohol, for example. Also, we have to remember, and this is important, petrol and diesel will be left out of GST, which means that the governments will have the ability in every state to increase the price of petrol to make up for the loss of everything else. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to introduce my guests. We're going to set aside our political differences and we're going to talk about GST, and we're going to answer any question that you call in with. Phone numbers are open. They're at the bottom of your screen. Our lines are open. My team is standing by. Joining me on the show this evening, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, National Spokesperson of the BJP. Surendra Kumar Mankoshkar is the Additional Commissioner Customs and Central Excise from Pune. I'm very glad to have him on the show. Vinod Jain is a tax expert and an economic analyst. Gurbakshish Singh Kohli is the Senior Vice President of the Hotel and Restaurant Association Western India. We also have Professor Sriram Khanna. He is the Managing Editor of Consumer Voice. And DG Shah is the Secretary General of the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance. Nitin Desai is an honorary professor at the Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations. Simple questions we're asking today. How will GST affect my life? Will it cause inflation? Will prices actually go up? Will prices come down? What should I be worried about really as a customer? Phone lines are open. I'm going to start with Mr. Nitin Desai. Mr. Desai, Will GST bring the prices down? As customers who use normal everyday things, will we be more comfortable after GST?
Let me just say that the GST is not, in that sense, a new tax. It's a consolidation of existing taxes into one tax. We were paying these taxes when we bought aerated drinks, when we bought ice cream. Only thing is, it was in different forms. Some of it was as excise, some of it was a sales tax. This is consolidating it. And as I can see it, the rates that have been agreed by the GST Council are such that the difference between the old rates and the new consolidated rates is not that huge. I don't think there'll be such a huge problem if you were buying things with tax. The difference will come for a different reason. It is compliance. We had gotten so used to getting stuff without paying taxes. You know, the kirana shop, "Arey bhai, bill mat dena, tax mat lagana." Now that sort of thing will become much more difficult because there is an input tax credit system. The person will get a credit for the tax that he has paid on what he has purchased when he sells you something. So he has an incentive on collecting the tax because he gets a credit for it. So let me just say this, that I don't think that it's inflationary in itself. There may be some temporary effect because manufacturers don't sort of keep quoting the old prices when they should quote the net of excise prices. But I'm glad that the government has put in some strong danda on profiteering, and I hope that will act as a restraint. But the real difference for the consumer will be, it will be much more difficult to indulge in tax avoiding transactions because of the inbuilt measures of compliance. One more point I'll quickly make.
Yes.
Can I quickly make one point? Which is that here the companies who are selling things must also recognize that the kirana shop who was selling it without a bill was partly doing it because they did not give him enough of a margin. They will have to increase the margins if they really want to continue to operate through the kirana shops and the rural wholesalers and so on. But that's something different. We can come back to that. But it's not a new tax. It's a tax which consolidates various other taxes into one.
All right, I want to bring in all of the voices. Surendra Kumarji, do you believe that this is the danda that India needed in order to pay taxes?
Basically, GST is introduced only to consolidate 21 major taxes. All 31 states have different 21 taxes, and every trader has to pay several taxes. So the basic purpose of GST is to reduce cascading effect, avoid multiple taxes, and simplicity of rates. Now only 4 rates are introduced. Taxation is very simple, and India is a population of 130 billion country. Those who have control over the economy will control the world. So nowadays, so many online companies are coming, like Alibaba, like so many Uber, then Uber, then Ola, and all has to brought under TaxNet. The basic purpose of the GST is if I pay, you pay. There should be a simplicity, there should be transparency, there should be equality, one country and one nation. That is the simple concept of GST.
Well, Vinod Jain, who is a tax expert, Vinod Jain, there's been some criticism that this is actually even more complicated than the earlier system, because we called a lot of people and I put my entire team on doing this research, and it took a really long time to actually understand how this will work, to understand the fact that there are various levels of tax, from 0, 5, 12, 18, 28%. Then there are surcharges that will be added on that. Then we have, the sin tax that has been added. Then there are some things that have been left out completely. Do you believe that this is a simple system if the whole point was to simplify it? Vinod Jain?
I think what the government is trying to do, उन्होंने जो प्रयास किया है यही किया है कि टैक्स एकदम सिंपल हो जाए. एक तो जैसे मेरे साथी ने पहले बताया कि 21 टैक्सों को एक साथ जोड़कर ये टैक्स बनाया गया है. They merged all the taxes and created this tax. That itself will reduce the complication very much. When it comes to 4 slabs which are there, or there is a slab for 0%, I don't think that create any complication, because if I have to charge 5%, I'll keep on charging only 5%. And I'll get, the biggest benefit of this tax is that you get seamless credit. The credit from one person to another. Suppose I'll explain it like this. Suppose you have purchased you something at 100 rupees and 10% tax is levied on you, you pay 110. And when you sell it thereafter, say at 150, 50 rupees margin, so again 10% tax, 15 rupees, 165, but you don't pay 15 rupees because you get a 10 rupees credit. So the person who is selling is only have to pay 5 rupees to the government and 10 rupees comes from the credit. The biggest benefit of this is a lot of complication get reduced because all kind of forms which are going on from travel of goods from one state to another. For example, C form was mandatory for interstate travel. Every time if you see at all nakas, wherever there is a state border, there was a lot of checking taking place. You have seen series of trucks, thousands of trucks standing one after another, waiting for their turn to come, just to cross that naka where checking will happen because the goods are traveling from one state to another. The way the government has worked out the system, this will go away. Why this will go away? They have introduced a e-way challan kind of a system which will be electronically generated when the goods travel from one state to another, and the driver will carry that e-way challan. He will not be stopped on the state borders, but he can be checked anywhere by maybe some people who want to do some kind of a surprise check. That means only surprise check will happen.
So Vinod Jain, our tax, our CAs across the country prepared now. Has everybody understood the system? It's an overhaul of the entire system. In your opinion, people in accounts for departments of every company have to understand how this new system works. Have they understood? Are we ready? 1st of July is not very far away.
Because I think the chartered accountant community is fully prepared for this actually, because a lot of training program has been happening for last about a year, and even now I think every city 4 or 5 training programs are going on for chartered accountants, for user, for selling people, for commercial. I think chartered accountant community is fully equipped to really handle this tax. I should also explain you, this is something similar to value added tax which was introduced several years ago. So excise complications have gone, service tax complications have gone, and it has all become VAT.
What about cess, Vinod Jain? What about the cesses, education cess, Krishi Kalyan cess, Swachh Bharat cess, cess on cess? Has all of that? Will all of that also go away with GST?
I think no cess will come as far as so far. I don't think there is any cess. They have enablement to impose cess only when there is a natural calamity in the law itself. The way it has been amended in terms of the constitutional amendment bill, they can impose cesses only when there is a natural calamity. I think that is exceptional case it may come, but right now there is no cess. Okay. You were talking about some additional surcharge which is called a cess, which is, for example, luxury cars pay 28% plus 15%. So high-end luxury cars pays 43%. So like that, cigarettes and tobaccos will also be paying higher taxes.
Okay, cigarettes, tobacco, luxury cars will be paying higher taxes. Professor Sriram Khanna, Managing Editor of the Consumer Voice, do you believe that this is good for all of us as consumers?
The single thing that this will do on the 1st of July is unify the Indian market. India had not one market, but more than 30 markets. Each state government had its jurisdiction to impose taxes. So when goods crossed state boundaries, they were actually, it's like they were going into another country and a new tax regime in that country. And this is what happened in the European Union in 1992. With the European unification, they created a common market. And we have all seen how European Union has benefited from a large community in which there is no borders between countries.
But they're all voting to exit that common market now, Professor Khanna.
No, that's another story. That's another story. But the fact remains that India's unification of markets will start from 1st July. So it's a welcome sign. And secondly, I see 2 fallouts from this. One is that all your tax employees and inspectors in state governments, central governments have been used to taking bribes. How will that be affected is something that I want to keenly observe, and I don't think anybody has made a study of what will happen to the bribes that were being paid for compliance with a huge plethora of rules, regulations, forms, procedures, and etc. And
Right,
secondly,
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. I just want to pick up that one point and take it across the panel, and I'll come back to you for further. Gurbakshi Singh joins us right now from the Hotel and Restaurant Owners Association. We know that five-star hotels and a lot of restaurants are going to face a lot of tax. I want you to answer that question. What happens to the bribes that we know that a lot of businesses have to pay in India right now? Even if you're running a small business, you have to pay hafta to a lot of people. Will that completely go away? Will businesses no longer have to pay bribes? Is that something you're celebrating, Mr. Singh?
Firstly, I'm not even celebrating the GST.
Why not?
I'm glad to see that the entire panel is so gung-ho about it. But I might be the only dissenting voice here, but so be it. Firstly, bribes and GST, I don't see any connection. If the guy is going to take bribe, just because you're paying GST, he's not going to not take it. And while the intent is very, very noble and we welcome it, the implementation and the tax structure is completely, it's quite warped actually, if I might use the word. Firstly, it was supposed to be a one nation, one tax structure. It is not that. By their own admission, there are 4 or 5 layers. Okay. For example, you compare it to any other country abroad. Take Singapore or the US or any other country that has these taxes, has the GST. They have a 1-point tax. If you buy a coffee, sorry, or if you buy a room and stay in the room, or if you go and buy a pen. So the tax structure is the same. Why this difference in tax structures, we cannot understand. They might argue that it's because they have to, complement the states, different states whose structure might go down or their revenue might go down. But what I'd like to say is that if I'm representing the hotel and restaurant industry here from the HRAWI,
yes,
it's not a very happy situation in the industry. Firstly, we haven't been able to shed the alleged elitist, brand.
Yes.
And we are giving you, we are one of the highest employment generating industry. We are one of the highest tax generating industry. We
and all of this tax will get passed on to customers.
Well, not a lot of it, all of it. I'm not going to pay the taxes myself. That's what people should understand. The gentleman who comes and visits a hotel or a restaurant is going to get taxed. Okay. Now, while I'm saying that,
right, so hold on to that. I'll come back to you for more points. I want to go back to the corruption point, and yes. I'm bringing in here Surendra Kumarji, who's Additional Commissioner Customs and Central Excise, representing a department, sir, that a lot of people will say has benefited from grey areas. How will you keep this? How will you make sure that your department is ready to make the switch? How will you make sure that other businesses who are perhaps afraid of loopholes or being taken advantage of, or officers who are no longer allowed to take bribes will no longer take bribes?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes. Yeah. See, basically, the speciality of the GST is transparency. We have kept minimum contact point between the officer and the assessee. For example, I'll tell you, for one sugar factory, now at present, there will be one purchase tax officer, there will be one sales tax officer, there will be one excise officer, there will be service tax officer, one person will dealing with LBT, one person dealing with customs. So now there will be only one person, either it is a state officer or center officer. So only one person will deal with the assessee. Number 2, we have brought so much transparency that if anyone apply for the registration, he will get registration within 3 days. And if any objection is there, it will be given in communication in writing. Similarly, all the show cause as well as adjudication, we have to finish in 3 years, maximum in 5 years. So we have tried our best to make it as transparent and as possible. For example, now e-way bill. E-way bill may, if anybody is obstructing any vehicle, inspecting it, then he also has to record the reason why he has obstructed and what was the reason and what he was finding. And thereafter, even the truck owner or the truck operator also will write down that so and so officer has stopped the vehicle and checked it. And once the vehicle was checked by once again, unless and until specific intelligence is there, the vehicle will go through safe journey. So all these points which bring transparency has been brought in the GST. The concept is more the transparency, more the simplicity, less the corruption, and less the efficient tax administration. We have to play a role of facilitator rather than a tax administrator.
All right, I want to quickly take a phone call and then go over to Gopal Krishna Agarwal, who represents the government. Manoj is on the phone line from Bangalore. Manoj, go ahead. What's your question?
Good evening, sir. I have three questions basically because I'm very new to GST. So one is, will the price of a GST or a base price of a product will be same across all the regions? One. Second will be how you will ensure that every shopkeeper or a distributor or any other will give a bills to us. They will not avoid invoices. And third one is, by this GST mechanism of 4 slabs, will the basic price of a commodity will not increase, because most of the people are poor and a middle class. So if the rate will go up, will that gonna impact the poor in a country? Because if a poor is earning 5,000 rupees a month, he will not gonna have an increase of a 10 or 15%, which is there in a GST.
Yes.
So how do you ensure that that will be taken care of? Because anyway, rich this doesn't see this as an impact, because even if you charge 50% to rich, they will pay. But middle class and poor people, does have an impact on this.
That's a great question, Manoj. Let me take that to Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, one of the criticisms to GST has been that the articles included in the measure of inflation, which is the WPI, so that's food, grains, cereals, milk, has been left out of GST, but everything else has been taxed at a very high level, which means that food, grains and cereals and milk is left out. Gas cylinder, for example, tea, coffee, sugar, I pay tax on. Butter, cheese, 12% tax. Toothpaste, hair oil, soaps, disinfectants, 18% tax. Shampoo, 28% tax. Two-wheelers, 28% tax. So on some level, won't the burden be higher, Gopal Krishna Agarwal?
No, one thing I want to tell you is that the government has categorically said that the rates of taxes at present in the GST and earlier will be almost similar. They will be kept, whatever tax was earlier due on any commodities, that will be same. Government will try to keep it in the same slab. Therefore, government has kept 4 slabs, and it has also tried to tackle the that the poor section or the weaker sections of the society who need commodities like cereals and essential commodities, they are taxed at the lower rate. One thing is this, and the government will keep completely try to keep the tax equivalent to earlier thing. And the most important thing that I think has been missed in the debate is that you were asking whether GST will cause inflation. Taxes in itself are not the only component of cost that determine the prices of the commodity. It is several costs. Now with the GST, one market and one tax, what will happen? A goods moving from Kanyakumari to Himachal had to travel through for 10-15 days. And now with the GST, the travel time will reduce to less than 4-5 days. So that the cost of travel in itself has come down. So the cost will come down. Similarly, a person manufacturing in Goa, something if the market available good price is available in Maharashtra, he can go and sell in the Maharashtra.
Gopal Krishna Agarwal, let me be honest with you. The reason why I asked that question.
No, let me finish. Let me finish.
Sure,
no,
go ahead.
let me finish.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
The thing is, there are several components in the cost of the commodities, which will in itself come down with the implementation of GST. Another important aspect that you should consider, people should consider, is the compliance of tax will increase. So when the compliance will increase, there will be larger base where there will be no leakages of the revenue from collection of tax from the common man. Every common man was paying indirect tax, but it was not reaching to the government because there was no audit trail earlier. So now the tax reaching to the government will be higher. So government will have scope for better infrastructure, better spending for the poor, better other kind of benefits that it can give to the common man. So ultimately what GST will do is we will move towards a low cost economy. The whole economy will become low cost, more transparent, ease of doing business in itself will create a better ecosystem for good business. So don't consider GST, rate of GST as the only component of cost, but there are several factors.
All right. I heard you out. The reason why I'm asking about inflation. One second. So the reason why I'm asking about inflation, and I'm going to open this up now to the entire panel. Any of the gentlemen want to say something? Please, raise your hand so I know you want to come in. Is because the RBI has done a study that shows that historically.
Can I just quickly come in? I need to.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I just basically, as RBI study says, there are temporary inflationary effects which arise. But remember this, as somebody said, please do not underestimate in an Indian context the impact that will fall because of the reduction in costs. I would say that yes, there is a problem in the multiple rates, but part of the reason for the multiple rates is the government's desire to ensure that the GST rates are not very different from the previous rates, so that the sticker shock is lessened. So I would say that on balance, there will be problems of juddering in implementation. There may be some temporary problems which will arise. But essentially, I would argue that this is not a thing which in itself is inflationary. It is something which will lead to a national market and uniformity of prices across the country for the same product. The multiple rates is a bit of a problem, but I don't think this is in itself a strong argument against the GST. The hotel industry has its problems, but that's a different story. But thank you very much. It has been a pleasure participating in your panel. Thank you.
All right, I want to go over to DG Shah. DG Shah is the Secretary General of Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance. There are some problems there also, Mr. Shah, I understand. From the healthcare industry, the healthcare services. So if I go to a hospital, the actual service of being treated in a hospital will not be taxed, but a lot of the medication and a lot of the equipment that is going to be used will be taxed. Is that something that you believe is a positive move, DG Shah?
Well, there is GST itself is a very complex exercise, but within GST, pharmaceutical is a special sector where we have three rates. 18% on the API, the raw material which goes into making the tablets and capsules. Then on the formulations, we have a 12% rate. And for life-saving medicines, which used to be at 0 rated, there is a 5% rate. Now, this is a classic industry where at every stage there is an inverted duty structure. And industry's concern is that how this inverted duty structure will be addressed. In addition to this, we have sites like Baddi and Dehradun in Himachal and Uttarachal, which are 0 rated by view of in view of industrial policy extensions. Now, to address all the concerns, we still don't see that GST rules which have been in public domain, that all these are addressed. Our preliminary numbers show that on a 1 lakh crore industry, domestic market, there will be about 2% impact on the prices of medicines, which will amount to about 2,000 crore.
Okay.
Now, how would this be corrected either by government or whether industry will have to bear it or whether consumer will have to pay it?
So what you're saying fundamentally, DG Shah, is that treatment and medicines will become more expensive, especially the life-saving treatment and medicine that was up until now completely tax-free.
True. It was zero rated, but now they've been put under the 5% bracket.
Okay. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, here's my question. Things like vaccinations, things like medicines are being taxed. There's some dichotomy on how we've chosen some of our items. Sindoor, for example, this is something that a lot of people have written about. Sindoor, for example, is tax-free. Sanitary napkins are being taxed. Whereas this is a product that is of a necessity, that women have to buy across the country, that from a healthcare point of view does not have the penetration that it should have. People in rural India do not have access to hygiene products. Why is it that sanitary napkins are being taxed, but Sindoor is not being taxed, Gopal Krishna Agarwal? Is somehow these sort of signs of, married life more important than basic hygiene and vaccinations?
No, I think what I would like to mention is the GST is at present is a work in progress. There may be several issues which come up. Then GST Council has been formed because of this only, that all the powers with the state, sovereign power with the state at the center, have been delegated to GST Council to look into issues and sort out the problem. This is a work in progress. There may be some items which require a realignment. The government is open that some items which may have come into a different category, they have to be changed to the different category. There are 1211 items which have been fixed, but there are so many items which still need to be classified in some categories. So the issues which are being pointed out will be taken care of. When a system of such huge issues like GST, national market, geographical differences, use parameter about people, they have to be compiled. There are issues which will be sorted out. If you point out that healthcare product will become costlier than earlier, the government will definitely think and change the rates. It can move it from one category to different category. People should, we would like to assure people that the government basic policy is to keep the cost at low prices, economy at low cost economy, and to get the benefit to the common man will be taken care of. There will be no issue which will bring the cost of earlier product, essential commodities, essential things like medicines, etc. If they are at present in a different, they will be changed.
All right. I can see Vinod Jain with his hand up. Vinod Jain, go ahead.
From hotel industry said that they are going to be taxed too heavily. If I see in the city of Delhi, for example, there were several taxes. They were being subjected to service tax, they were being subjected to VAT, and all the more the luxury tax was another very big tax which was on the rack rate. So the overall tax incidence on hotels, even on cinemas, it looks 28% as too high. But I think the entertainment tax getting mixed into it, 28% actually going to cinema will be still going to be cheaper. Another point which I want to make about corruption, Mr. Sriram Khanna raised the issue of corruption. The way the law is structured, the government do not want any inspectors to actually visit various factories or various establishments. All interface as fast as possible is going to be shifted to electronic interface. Whatever questions or issues which are there between the government officials and the SSEs, it has to be addressed electronically. इसका मतलब ये है कि आपके पास कोई आएगा नहीं पूछने के लिए कि आपने टैक्स का रिटर्न भरा है या नहीं भरा है, क्योंकि सब आपने इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली रिटर्न भरना है. रिटर्नों के बारे में भी कहा जा रहा है कि बहुत सारे रिटर्न है, लेकिन जैसा हम लोगों ने चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स डिटेल में स्टडी किया है, मेनली एक रिटर्न जो आपने जिसमें अपनी सेल्स भरनी है उसको भरना है. बाकी उसके बाद बहुत सारी चीज़ें ऑटोमेटिकली पॉपुलेट हो जाएंगी, जिसमें जैसा सिस्टम बनाया गया है, एक बहुत हाई एंड सिस्टम बनाया है. इससे दो तीन फायदे होंगे. एक तो कास्केडिंग इफेक्ट जिसे कहते हैं, टैक्स के ऊपर टैक्स. पहले एक्साइज ड्यूटी लगती थी, उसके ऊपर वैट लगता था।
Right, right. एक minute. So I understand that. Let's answer specific questions. Gurbakshi Singh, you talked about the possibility of corruption that will continue, that you're very uncomfortable with what's going to happen going forward.
See, I'll just take 5 minutes and explain what this is all about. Gopalji just said that in Delhi there were A, B, C, D, E taxes, but I'd like to inform you that they were all over India. These taxes were there. In Delhi, in Bombay, everybody was paying service tax, VAT, luxury tax, albeit at a different rate. Delhi cannot be the example of entire India. Now, the hotel industry, I feel, has been singled out. It's been singled out categorically as being for being taxed the highest. Why I say that is because in the last 10 years or so that I remember, I have not seen the mention of anything about hospitality or tourism in any budget. While our Prime Minister has a noble intention of bringing tourism to its heights and having one of the 5 pillars, but it's not. This is not what we see. Secondly, I'd like to say that actually these taxes are a disincentive. They're a disincentive because we attract foreign tourists, we attract domestic travelers. Our rate is going to be at 25, 28, 18, 28%.
Yes, which is very high.
Why would I mean, if I was a traveler and I wanted to take a holiday, I would not go to India. I would not go. I would rather go to a neighboring country which has got 5 or 7 or 8% tax, and it's got a single point tax. It's not that because I'm buying a coffee at a 5-star, I have to pay 28%. But if I'm buying it at a cafe coffee day, I'm paying a lower tax. Thirdly, I don't understand this entire concept of 5,000 rupees.
Yes.
You know,
there's been an argument also being made. Sorry to interrupt you. There's been an argument also being made that because for a lot of products it will depend on the price. So if you pay if it's 5,000 rupees for a hotel room, the tax is different. More than 5,000 rupees, the tax is different. Thereby encouraging hotels then to perhaps make their books slightly flexible and create arguments with the tax authorities.
See, also that's where the corruption comes in. You know, you had corruption when you were paying 95% taxes. You brought it to 35. There's more compliance. So this is a very simple thing to understand. What I was trying to tell you is that.
Right. So I got those points. I just have to bring in other voices. Okay.
Let me finish, because at 5,000 rupees, fine. You're creating a bar that or a structure where above or below which you'll be taxed. What about 5-star hotels?
Yeah.
Whether they're charging 1,000 rupees or whether they're charging 5,000 rupees, they will be taxed. Now, let me tell you that our association is the one who gave these classification norms to the government. The government did not know what is happening. We gave them these norms. So now it's almost like a deterrent that because you are a 5-star or you are adhering to the norms, we will tax you more.
All right. So I want to bring up why we're talking about this. We actually went out today and spoke to people and asked them what do they know about GST. These are the answers we got from across the country.
Going forward, government should ensure that there should be only a single tax and no multiple taxes. For some or other reason, government should not introduce more and more taxes.
It might help because the inter-transaction rules are coming up. So currently we are facing some challenges in the inter-transaction where you require road permit and all the things. But after GST, it might go away.
So GST is a very progressive step for the country. I think this should have been implemented long ago. So one country, one tax is a very progressive step towards the economy of the country. It should be a welfare for suppliers, consumers, whoever is the manufacturing unit. It should be a very progressive step.
The concern here is that it should be implemented properly at state level because there are a lot of resistance from state governments.
Yes, I think in the long term it's a good move because it collects all the taxes at one area, and I think if they have a good distribution model among states and the center, I think for the long term it is a pretty good move.
GST as a reform is excellent, but like every reform and every change, it comes with a lot of pains.
This is the greatest reforms brought by any government in India after independence. The benefit of this will be in the next
many generations.
मुझे ऐसा लगता है GST बिल जो सरकार ने लाया है उसमें जो खाने पीने की चीज़ हैं और जो पानी है उस पर टैक्स बिल्कुल भी नहीं होना चाहिए।
लग्जरियस चीज़ों पे ज़्यादा टैक्स तो होना ही चाहिए, जो उससे जो पब्लिक नीडेड की चीज़ें है, जर्नल नीड की चीज़ें जिससे पब्लिक का डेली का लगता है कि भाई मिलना चाहिए, तो उस पर टैक्स ऑब्वियसली कम होना ही होना चाहिए। उस पर
एक तरह से देखा जाए तो हमारे आम जनता को काफ़ी राहत पहुंचाने वाला यह GST बिल है। और अभी पिछले कुछ ही दिनों में कई सारे वस्तुओं के दाम निर्धारित कर दिए गए हैं।
High expectations there from people across the country, but very buoyant, very positive. Everybody we spoke to was very positive about GST. So for the people watching at home, these are the things that are largely exempt as of now. Milk, curd, lassi, cereals, vegetables, not packed. If they're packed, if milk comes in a packet, then you have tax. If vegetables are frozen or packed, then you have tax. Condoms, contraceptives, newspapers, books, also there are grades here. So actual books that are textbooks that children are going to use will not have tax. But drawing books that are slightly extracurricular will have tax on them. Healthcare services but not medication. Sindoor is not taxed. At the lowest rate, gas cylinder, branded flour, coffee, tea, sugar, packed vegetables, economy air travel, AC trains, cab aggregators at 12%. Dry fruits, butter, cheese, restaurants without alcohol, sanitary napkins, which still confuses me. I don't know why it's being taxed. Fruit, juice-based drinks at 18%. Ice cream, mineral water, toothpaste, hair oil, soaps, restaurants serving alcohol, banks and financial services, which means your insurance, your mutual funds, any service that is given to you by your bank right now. So when you swipe your card and they're charging you 150 rupees because you've crossed the number of transactions, there will now be an 18% GST on that amount. And on the highest slab of 28%, perfume, shampoo, aerated drinks, chocolates, TV, air conditioner, refrigerators, cars, two-wheelers, cigarettes, which will also have an added tax after that, five-star hotels, movie tickets. I don't know why we're putting a 28% tax on movie tickets. That sounds a little, I mean, it's not exactly a rich man's indulgence. That's something perhaps we need to reconsider as well. Satpal Singh is on the phone line from Karnataka. Satpal Singh, go ahead.
Sir, I want to bring a very important point in this contest. It is pertaining to farmers. Farmers, tractor parts which are used basically by farmers, this was taxed at 5% under the VAT system.
Okay.
Now, under this system, GST, it is being taxed 28%. So why this difference? The tractor parts are basically used by farmers. It is not a luxury item that we can take a tractor and go somewhere for a tour or a trip or for enjoyment purpose. This is used by farmers for cultivating their crops, and thereby cultivating the crops, people will get cheaper outputs also. And now they are taxing at 28%. Everything will become very costly. My humble request is that tractor parts and which should used by farmers should be taxed at the lowest.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Gopal Krishna Agarwal is listening. I'm sure he's going to take these points forward to the decision makers in the government. Ravi Nair is on the phone line from Mumbai. Ravi Nair, go ahead.
No, can I come in? There is a clarification.
No, Gopal, we just listen to these two callers and then I come straight to you so you can respond to all of them. Ravi, go ahead. Ravi, go ahead quickly.
Yeah. I'm a 52-year-old citizen and an educated and aware person. In the last 6 months, I have been checking and talking to retailers, wholesalers, dealers, and manufacturers. But 100%, I'll tell you, 100% of the people are absolutely ignorant about it. Pata nahi kya hone wala hai. Today we have an educated lot on the panel, and I would like them to tell me how much will the following things cost me: onions, potatoes, electricity, gas cylinders, bus rates, sanitary napkin, train tickets, society maintenance. These are the most important things which I'm going to use it tomorrow, or I'm going to ask my wife to get it. Is my wife going to ask me for more money from tomorrow onwards, saying that वो tax बढ़ाया बल्कि GST के कारण पैसा ज़्यादा हो गया? I would like them to tell, because onions and potatoes should come in packed and they should have an MRP, and that's the only way a person will know that वो उसमें tax लगाए कि नहीं करके.
That's a very good question. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, onions, potatoes, bus fees, sanitary napkins, LPG cylinders, most of these things, if the vegetables are packed, will be taxed. Gopal Krishna Agarwal.
No, what two questions are raised, I would like to respond to them. One thing is, when he said that the tractor and other things, there are big tax. I think that's not the real rate. They are only considering only the sale tax, etc. They are not considering the excise and other things which were also forming component of the whole process of manufacturing. So many people are doing this mistake that they are only considering earlier one part of the tax with the GST. GST is subsuming around 18 to 20 taxes. Earlier, if you want to compare two commodities or any two items, you have to compare the total taxes earlier and now with them with the current tax. This thing will now that will clarify them it is. And on the second person's Raviji's question, I want to say that all unprocessed food item agriculture commodities, they are under zero tax. So this potato, onions, etc., there will be zero tax. Third thing I would like to mention is that people are talking of corruption. Very important concept in the GST is that if you have to take the input credit into consideration, if you want to take the benefit of input tax, you have to buy from the person who is in the net of GST net. Otherwise, you will not be able to take the benefit of input tax credit. That will create your items in the market costlier than the person who is taking the benefit of the tax input credit, because government has also put up a clause of anti-profiteering clause that you cannot charge more than what the tax is at the present structure. So the government has very well taken care of all issues. Some of the issues with the service industry, people are finding some difficulty, but GST has lot of gains, some pains. We have to anyone, the system, as Vinodji has mentioned, that the GST network itself take care of those pains because it is online, it is transparent, you don't have to interact with the person individually. You can sit in your house, file your returns, file your all your point of sale bills, etc., your calculations, input credit, everything will come automatically to your accounts. So this is a lot of transparency,
yes, we understand those points,
which is beneficial to the manufacturers. At the same time,
anyone on the panel
will
who
also
can
be benefited by lowering of the tax.
Okay, anyone on the panel who can answer that specific question. Onions and potatoes if packaged, and I remember that the caller Ravi said very clearly that he would like these onions and potatoes to be packed with an MRP on it. Onions, potatoes, bus fees, LPG cylinders, sanitary napkins for sure we know is going to be expensive because that's something we've studied on this channel. But in comparison to what we are paying right now, will these various products become more expensive or less expensive? Anyone on the panel who wants to answer that question? Vinod? Okay, Mr. Surendra Kumarji, go ahead.
No, I think I can
See,
respond to it.
All we were discussing why there are 4 rate of taxes, why there is not single. We cannot compare India with the Australia, where there are agriculture products, we have to take it at 0 or 5%. At the same time, we have to promote certain items like solar engines, hybrid engines. So these items are charged at lesser rate. Whereas most of the industrial product which are semi-table, they are given at 12 and 18%. So that every input will get, every industry, every supplier will get a benefit of input tax. So accordingly, there are 4 people are made. And at the same time, government may have to discourage certain items for which they have introduced at a higher rate. How a hybrid engine car can be compared with a luxurious car. Similarly, in case of GST, there are one most important item has been brought for the farmers and all. India has lot of subsidies on various commodities. In GST Act, there is a specific provision that if subsidies are there, that will not be added into the value. The subsidies which are given by state and center. And you know, highest items of subsidies are available on areas, industrial areas in the backward area. Then we can say that about insecticide, pesticides. So all such subsidies will be removed out of the valuation. Therefore, the prices will definitely come. There was another question, if shopkeeper doesn't give bill, what is to be done? Taking a bill from the shopkeeper is a duty of citizen. But at the same time, GST has introduced a composition scheme. If any shopkeeper is having the turnover lesser than 50 lakh, then he can always charge at 1% or 2%, and he can take a composition scheme and pay tax which he may not recover, which need not recover from the customer. So simplicity has also been brought. Four slabs are necessary. Prices will always definitely come.
Gurbakshi Singh wants to respond. Gurbakshi Singh, very quickly, go ahead.
And the most important aspect is, in case of GST, I think I'll take a bolder step. After Indian Constitution, GST is the most debatable act. We have government has discussed with all states. Lot of Samudra Manthan has been done, and the best possible act has been brought out.
Okay.
So that's why almost every citizen is very positive about
respond
GST.
to the simplicity, factor that they keep on saying. It's not so simple. Like somebody said earlier, that all you have to do is you have to sell your goods from here to, for example, Hyderabad, and just file for your input tax credit or your tax credit, and you will get it. It's not like this. What they're not telling you, or what the common people don't know, is that you have to, if I sell my goods at Hyderabad, I have to file my tax returns in Hyderabad. And if that gentleman who's supposed to have, whose credit I am supposed to be receiving back, if he hasn't paid, I don't, sir, let me complete, please. Can I just complete, sir? Just a moment. No. If he has not paid, I will not get my credit. Now, what are we? We are raised to being watchdogs, actually. So I do my duty, I buy my goods, I pay the gentleman his tax, he doesn't pay, and I get penalized. So how is it simple?
You're saying it's not simple. Of course, it is going to be a complicated system
why do I need
understand.
to? Why do I need to go and file my returns in Hyderabad?
Right. So to both Vinod Jain and Gopal Krishna Agarwal, I have one more viewer on the phone line. I want you to respond to both of these questions. Satish is on the phone line from Thane. Satish, if you can hear me, go ahead. We can hear you. What's your question?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I only wish the GST would have been kept only at 5%. Because all this 18% business is the one which is leading into corruptions. People try to avoid this 18%. Even earlier also it was that you add the excise, you add the VAT, it used to go to 18 to 22%.
Right.
So 5% would have been throughout India. It should have been.
It should have been at 5%. Do you have any other questions, Satish? Any other questions?
I wanted to ask. Now they were talking. That gentleman was talking about this Amrit Manthan. I only hope this Amrit Manthan was done during 2011. This GST India would have gone still ahead. This demonetization business wouldn't have also come. So 2011, I still can't understand why did the opposition allow the ruling party to pass this bill in 2011. India would have jumped into leaps and bounds if this is the calculation of what these people say, that India will progress. Now India will progress. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Satish. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, you want to answer that question? His first question was, why not stay at only 5%? And secondly, why did the BJP oppose GST? He said in 2011 when it was tabled the first time, introduced the first time.
I would like to answer this both questions. One thing is that government has kept multiple tax slab because we had to keep it revenue neutral. Because the revenue, if the revenue is reduced in a future period, then the government from the center will have to compensate states, and states for their revenue will reduce. So ultimately, to keep the revenue neutrality of the whole tax collection, the multiple tax slabs were kept so that essential commodities or the commodities or items used by the poor sections of the society are taxed at a lower rate, and the items which are used by the people from the upper class of the society, they can be taxed at a higher rate, and government gets a neutral revenue as it was getting earlier. This was the one important contention, to keep multiple tax rate. Second thing is, we opposed in 2000, VAT was brought by our government. It was brought by earlier NDA government, and the GST is extension of the whole process. We have come to 8 years have passed since that time when GST was first introduced. A lot of water has flown over the river. There was a GST council. So many contentious issues were sorted out, and the beauty of this GST at current is GST network. I would like to answer another question with this, that you don't have to file multiple returns. You don't have to go to Hyderabad to file your return. You can sit through your house and your office premises and enter your transactions. Input credit will come to you through GST net. The GST net is such a beautiful structure which can handle 300 crores of transactions per month, and all the transaction across the country by everybody will be automatically matched. Credit will flow automatically through your GST registration number. Your bills will come to your account. Your interstate.
Right, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, I've run out of time. I appreciate you answering questions, and I appreciate the other members of the panel who've come in. Obviously, the 1st of July, which is the target for GST to be implemented, is a deadline that is quickly racing towards us. We're in mid-May right now, so it's going to be a complex time for all of us, not just people who are running businesses, but regular people. If you buy a packet of soap, or you buy chips, or you buy biscuits, you'll be paying GST. So it's really important for us all to understand each of these rates and what it actually means. We're going to try on this channel to break things down, go piece by piece, and try and understand everything in within GST and every industry that it's going to be impacting, whether that's the restaurant business or the pharmaceutical business, because these are all services that we will use. Contact details are on your screen if you have questions about GST. My Twitter handle is on your screen as well. Get in touch and we will try and put you in touch with people who can help you out. And we'll try and answer all questions on the show. Thanks for watching.